Oh, that's better. Shh. We'll be going live in 20 seconds. I hear you. I see it. I see it. 5, 4, 3. Welcome to 21-6 the net. You know what? We've got to say, everybody in the world today, regardless if you're listening now or not, you're stuck in the net because it's 216. Think about that. Such a great day. They named it after the station. 216. Yes. That means that music can only mean one thing. It's time for two bald guys and, of course, two bald guys and brought to you through the financial support of our good friends over at Restoration One. Water, fire, mold. Give them a call, 847-264-4664. If you've got it, they can help you get rid of it. They're not a doctor, but they will help you out in your house. You'll notice that we are one hairy guy that, thinks he's bald. He's gone. He's down in Nashville. He's doing some talent search down in Nashville. Actually, he and his wife went on a nice little vacay, getting away for a week or so. If you don't see Coach Papa, that's why. Of course, two bald guys and Mike's a show all about, we're just three guys who like to try to help people make changes that they don't even know they got to make changes for. And we enjoy that. Get you to think and hopefully break out of some routines, start some new ones. Right? How was your week?
It was good.
Good couple weeks actually, right? We were off last week. We had a thing that we had to do over at the bank. So
that's right.
Little reception type thing, which is great. Hey, look, there's Nate Meadows. Nate, are we missing? What does he say? Are we missing a ball guy? Yes. Yep. He's gone. He's out there someplace. And Lisa, Changing Perceptions. How are you? So here's the deal. Lisa, if you want to swing over, it's a 45-minute show. You can get here in about 5 and join us. We're talking about habits and how they affect us, right? Next week's show is going to be cool. We're going to talk a little about plasticity, and we'll have Dr. Jones. He runs the psychology department at Central Iowa University on talking about that. But we were talking about habits and what habits do to us, how they affect us, and most of you listening don't even know that you have them. You think I've got a bad habit of smoking, or I've got a bad habit of masturbating, or whatever. I don't know, right? I don't. I'm just saying that somebody out there may have that, right? But what are habits, Mike? What's going on there?
Habits are the things that make my life. I think they're all the things that I do that I don't have to think about doing. So I wake up and I automatically do all the shit that runs my life and that creates it in the way that it is, right? Without having to consciously change anything.
I just wanted to do a sound check in the headphones, so you sound great. I wanted to. Habits are the things that define us, I think, right? And this is I don't know anything about psychology, right? I'm just a dude who runs a radio station. But I've noticed since you and I kind of started talking about this, that I have habits that I don't even know I have. In other words, they're routines that you just do, right? So So I looked up the American Journal of Psychology to find the defined a habit as a routine or behavior that is repeated regularly and tends to occur subconsciously.
Mm.
They're not bad. They're not good. They're habits. So I think when a lot of people, unless you're Catholic and you think of habit, that's what the nuns wear, right? But if you, people tend to think of habits as bad habits or traits that aren't welcome. Why is that? Why do people do that?
Right. I think it's because those are the things that we're always trying to break. You're never trying to break a good habit. It's like the things that are the bad habits are the ones that come and haunt you, and that you realize, and holy shit, I got to change those if I
Yeah.
want to change my life, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll pick on Lisa a little bit. We'll pick on me and you a little bit, right? I mean, we're all smokers at one point in our life. And the first time you took a drag on a cigarette, you didn't go, well, I'm going to start a bad habit. I mean, maybe Lisa did, right? But you literally didn't go, well, let's start a bad habit here.
Right.
Right. And probably the first cigarette, you're like, why do people smoke? These are crap. Yeah, it's horrible.
The adults are doing it, so it must be good.
Right. It must be good. So if it's something that you don't think you can start, then how does it form?
Right. It starts as something that just it fills some kind of void or something, right? I mean,
Right.
you're using it for something that feels good probably at the time.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm just listening. Now I am a target. Yeah, of course, Lisa. You're always a target. Of course, if you want to change Lisa's perception, you can tune in on Sundays where she'll help you change your perception at 9 a.m. Yeah. So I think in listening to Mike is correct. Thank you. That's why we have him here. Truthfully,
for that one time that I was correct.
Yeah. Right. So in listening to Lisa's show and producing that, I do take a lot of notes. I learn a lot of good things. I think our brain is in either fight or flight, right? All the time, whether we think so or not. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm making this up as I go. But here's my thought: is a habit is that warm blankie when you were a kid. It's that security that says, I don't need to be in fight or flight right now. I do this because it's good. People with, you'll see people maybe, touch their nose a lot or whatever. It's a habit. You'll see them do weird things if they're nervous in front of people or whatever, and or they do something, right? Or they wring their hands or something, but it's a habit that makes them feel better. Or I'm thinking, right? I'm again not a psychologist. I don't know, which is good. Mike can come on the show.
Thanks.
So you'd love to have you actually. My show, yes, right. So a Sunday morning, if you're not in the band, stop on by.
Okay.
But right, so I think we create them. Now, as I look at my life, I've got habits that I didn't even know I had. Like I literally, some people call it a routine. I mean, I literally check email at the same kind of time each day.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, do certain tasks, get up and have a coffee, at 2:30 or whatever is like, oh, I do. Right. So I have these habits. Some people may call them routine. That I don't even know they're there.
Right.
I mean, if you here's a habit that everybody has: cross your arms.
Okay.
Right. So you go left over right.
Always.
I go right over left. Now change it.
Ooh, I don't like that.
I don't even know how to do
gross.
it.
I can't do that. No, I gotta go the other way. I really like the feel.
So the over goes under there, right? So that's just a habit, right? So the interesting thing is, just simple things that we do. Mm-hmm. Some people call it muscle memory. Some people call it whatever. But it's interesting because I went like that, and you went left. I go right over left. You go left over right. And then to try to change it, you had to think about it. And look, those are habits that are okay. That's not a bad habit, is it?
No.
Yeah. No.
And And if you look at, I mean, a habit in the neutral sense, it's automating everything so that we don't have to think about it.
Right.
Because if we had to think about everything we had to do, there's no way. What
yeah, it's that warm blankie, right? Yeah. Lisa says those are habits formed by response, and your body repeats the response the body had when the initial situation happened, meaning the twitches, hand. Yeah, right. So it was from a mental thing that we did. Oh, I got to do this to make me feel good or whatever. Right. Which is interesting. Hey, Shayna. She says, hey, guys, the best worst habits give the nerves a break or the mind some novelty. Right. Is that what she says? Novelty?
Yeah.
I think as humans, we might be set up like that. Yeah. But everywhere I've gone, it's like, oh, that's a bad habit. Oh, but that's a bad habit. Oh, that's a bad habit. Oh, that's a bad habit. I don't think all habits are bad.
No.
Right. I mean, there's some good things that keep us safe and out of danger. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So the idea is, and we were talking about this the other day, you and I, can some of my habits that I have create anxiety and make for a miserable thing, right? So here's the story. Here's the story that I'll tell. There was a situation at work with a coworker who literally, right, triggered, and I had to get. I mean, I was so mad I was shaking. Got up, left. I left the meeting, like boom, walked out. Had a meeting with this person and someone else yesterday, and it was my meeting, so I send out the agenda, like, right, and I had played out in my head a habit that I have is to play the situation out in my head, like, listen, if they say this, I'll be like, get HR in here right now. You guys suck, right? I mean, so I created this anxiety of, this is how this is going to go, and I know this is going to happen. And it's a habit that I have. My wife will be like, yeah, you told me this story. This is the third time you've told me. You're not going to do anything now. So just stop telling me this story. Oh, okay. Right. And so do we have some habits that we have that can create anxiety? Now, here's the kicker. The meeting went off without a hitch. I nervous the day before, nervous at night, poor sleep, whatever. Nothing happened. I have a habit of doing that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it created a bit of anxiety,
right?
Loss of some sleep. I don't know,
right?
Yeah. With the arms, curious, what arm was on top, and who was your dominant parent? What do you mean? Which one beat me the most? Is that what you're asking on the dominant? Your left goes over the top.
My right is over the top.
Well, so she's saying hand?
Is it hand or is it arm?
With the arms, curious, what arm was on top? So yeah, your left arm.
My left arm is on top.
Yeah. My right arm goes on top. Right? Yeah. My right arm.
Yeah.
Your left arm does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So who was your dominant parent? I didn't know my parents.
They were both dominant in their own ways.
Yeah.
I'd say my dad. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm right over left, and I think they were both equally.
Yeah.
I got beat by them both. Well, I was, and when I say beat, they didn't abuse me. I mean, I deserved every whooping I got. Trust me, right? The anxiety created the habit.
Okay, so there it is. Is it the chicken before the egg, or the
right?
Right.
Which way does it go? Who decides what's the best? Me, society, circumstances. That's that's a great question when it comes to habits and whatnot, right? So, I mean, it depends. If you have a habit of picking your nose, nothing wrong with that. I mean, just look in the car next to you. Usually, somebody's doing it, right? But like if you're on stage, if we're doing a show and I'm like digging up to my third knuckle, like, hey, I got to get this out. Society that would say, yeah, it's not good, right? Right. But yeah, I think, who decides what's best. I think maybe our subconscious mind decides that. I don't know. To me, bad would be denied by afflict.
Deemed.
Oh, what is it? What?
Deemed by
Deemed?
affecting you negatively. To me, bad would be deemed by affecting you negatively.
Okay, so a bad habit affects you
So
negatively.
something that creates a bad outcome in your life is
Right.
probably a bad habit, right? Yeah.
So mom for Kent, because my right hand was over. I don't. So the interesting thing is, my addiction to Tiger Woods had a sex addiction.
Mhm.
That was a habit that he had. So that's not a bad one then, because I mean it didn't.
Well,
It wasn't.
yeah.
It didn't afflict him negatively or affect him, right? Maybe,
It is, yeah.
maybe, right? I don't know. 2 tickets to what's it say?
2 tickets to gross in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, oh yeah, we've been there, right? Yeah, well, I can go there quick. So, but here's the whole thing: is I don't think you can stop a habit.
I don't think so either.
I don't think you can start a habit.
Okay, now you got me intrigued. The first one made sense to me, but
Right?
the second one.
So
Explain this.
I don't start off again. We'll use smoking, right? I didn't start off to make it a bad habit. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be like everybody else. I smoked Kent cigarettes. That's right, I did. I smoked Kent cigarettes. My name was on the pack. I had to.
That makes sense.
And then when those stopped being made, I went right to cool because, well, Anyway, and I always had to be menthol. I was a menthol guy.
Those are good.
Yeah. So I didn't start out to go, well, I did it for a different reason, but then the habit became, man, after a meal, especially a spicy meal, you get that cool menthol. Having a beer, a cup of coffee, it became a habit, right? I didn't start it, but it became one.
Right. So you just strung along enough times of doing it that it started to snowball.
Right. What does it say? Is
fidelity a habit? Is fidelity a habit?
That's a good question.
That is a
what
good
would
question.
you say? Is Fidelity a bank? Don't they invest? Is that an investment company?
So when you're
right. Well, that's a good question. Would that be a habit? Some would say yes. Right?
I think you have to make it a habit, right?
Right.
You have to. Well, you just said you can't make a habit or you can't create one. But that's the daily act of committing to that daily that can create a habit in doing that. So it doesn't mean that, like, because any habit along the way, it can be, I mean, it can be, broken for, well, not stopped maybe permanently. Like if you, I mean, you can, so if you're a smoker and you smoke daily, I mean, you might have a day where you, for whatever reason you go without a cigarette, but it doesn't mean you've broken the habit. It just, you're going to go right back to it. So fidelity could be the same thing.
So
whatever.
A lot of people hate me because they don't hate me. They hate what I'm able to do because when I go to man camp, man, I smoke, right? I mean, pipe, I'll take my corncob pipe, people's cigarettes, whatever, right? Because I'm there to ruin brain cells. It's just unplug and ruin brain cells, right? I've been doing it for years, folks. And so like I'll start to smoke cigarettes or pipe or whatever about a month before, so I don't kill my lungs. So it's like I'm like an Olympic athlete.
Interesting.
I'm building up to
You're like the dude that goes to the tanning bed before you go to Florida or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind
of so I do this, right? I ramp up. I get my body ready for this. I also consume a bunch of alcohol, a lot more alcohol during that time because that's all we do is we just sit around and drink and smoke. So I do this. When we leave, I never touch another cigarette till the next year.
Wow.
or a pipe. Nothing. Don't even have a craving for it.
And you were an ex-smoker.
I'm an
So
ex-smoker.
that's impressive.
Right.
Because I don't know if I could do that.
That's what everybody says. Like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't have a desire to do it.
That'd be
Right.
rough. Yeah.
And unlike a former president, I do inhale. Right. So and it's just literally through maybe halfway through August to when and we always go the second week of September. So then after that, nothing.
Wow.
Right. And
So
people, they look at me like, huh? What?
you've made that the new habit though now. Maybe
Perhaps that's it. I've created a habit
it's
of
that month
this
out of the year. That's your habit of
of
smoke
smoking.
or drink or do whatever
Right.
at the time. Okay.
So perhaps that is now a habit that I've created. Right.
Interesting.
That's interesting. I didn't even think of that. But I've been doing it for so long, and we'll get there. And literally, folks, I'm not suggesting this to anybody, but I'll literally smoke a pack a day up there.
You gotta feel great.
I swear. I swear. Oh God, I'm coughing. My throat's sore. It's tough, right? But yeah, so it's bizarre, right? What does Shayna say?
She says muscle memory training hopes to engage a type of autopilot or habit. Wouldn't that be an example of the creating of a habit?
Yeah. So let's go back. Let's go back to her fidelity question first. And fidelity is defined as, because I think words have meaning, right? So fidelity is defined as faithfulness to a person, cause, or belief demonstrated by continuing loyalty and support.
Right. Sounds like
So it could
habitual.
be a habit.
Right.
Hey, this is it. A lot of it too is just out of fear. I just right. I would be scared to not be right. So yeah, so you could. So the muscle memory. Okay. So again, I does the psychology world, and you're working on your masters. Does the psychology world now start putting? Well, I don't want to call it a habit. It's not that sexy. Let's call it muscle memory.
I mean, in fitness, it's used as muscle memory.
Sure.
I mean, in the gym and everything. But I mean, even the there is a psychology when you're performing those lifts. I mean, to see what you're doing, to have it in your head. That there's a lot of interplay there.
Yeah.
So it's not just one or the other. But yeah, it's a habit of both.
I mean, think of when you sit down at a table. You do the exact same. Go talk about muscle memory or whatever you want to call it. You do the exact same thing every time you sit down to eat at a table. You'll move, you'll take the napkin, you'll do something. Everybody does. They have their own quote unquote routine, which has become a habit every time that they sit down.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Every time.
And go someplace where the somebody gets served first and they wait for everybody else, right? And like you're the second person and you've gone through your habit and you're gonna dig in and they haven't, so they're just sitting there waiting. You're being polite because you're at a table or whatever,
right?
And then you just watch how uncomfortable the people get, like that's it, right? So hey man, when it hits the plate, here we go.
That would be a good one.
It's interesting to watch these habits, I think.
You're right.
And again, I'm going to go back to habits aren't bad, but you can't stop a habit.
I agree.
And you can't create one, or you can't start one. Okay. Now we can all go back to that first cigarette and go, well, that's when it started.
Yep.
Okay. That was the first point. But I don't think you can define start to begin, right? I think you can create a habit by continually doing something.
Right.
That makes you feel good or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Right. Or subconsciously doesn't necessarily make you feel good, but makes you deal with, as Lisa said, one of those mental things. Right. I don't know.
And now my question, and now you have me thinking, because on the first one where you talk about you can't stop a habit.
Right.
And I think of it as if I'm going to try and stop, I have to replace it with something. I have to replace the bad habit with something new, with a good habit. So now does the same work with a good habit? If I'm starting a bad habit, am I
Right.
replacing something good in my life?
So let's we'll use me as a guinea pig.
Super cool.
This year, I one of my goals is to not drink alcohol this year. Now I'm not addicted to alcohol. I don't drink daily. I don't even drink weekly. Right.
Right.
So I just as I've told people, I'm like, some people mentally challenge themselves to run a marathon or an Ironman or whatever. So this is my mental challenge. I'm not a runner. You can tell that by how good a shape I'm in. Getting in better shape thanks to this guy over here. Um, but I want to mentally challenge myself to say I'm not going to drink alcohol this year.
Mm.
Now there has already been a couple days. We're only at 216. That's right, 216. The net. We're on the 16th of February. There's been a few days where I'm like, whoo, I could use a big glass of scotch right now.
Yeah,
Right. And so, or even a small one, doesn't matter, just scotch. But what I've had to do is stop and go, why am I wanting that?
Mm.
What's the need for it, and what can I replace it with?
Right.
Okay. So now it's really to a place where I can just replace it with that thought pattern. I don't have to get like an iced tea or a water or anything like that. I can just be very mindful of what's going on and go, okay, I don't need one.
Mm. That's
Right.
Good. Right.
So, and I've been in situations where I've wanted to have a drink. It's the truth. Right.
Right.
What did she say?
She says, "Is it an unconscious attempt to calm chaos when we can? Same chair, side of the bed, etc."
Yep. Yep. That's why I say I think those habits that we create keep us from the flight or fight feel and says, hey, this feels good. This is
So calming,
this
right?
yeah, this is what I needed this. Right. Oh God. Right.
Yeah.
It's like think about when you would see your grandma and your grandma would just be happy to see you and she would just hug you, right? Or give you a sloppy kiss or whatever your grandma did that you were just like, oh, or maybe the smell of your grandma's house, because she's making bacon or something. And every time you went there, her house smelled the same. You're like, oh man, that just it is a happy place.
That's
Right.
good.
So
It's
I think
always-
I think those habits cause a subconscious happy place.
Mm.
If I can say that. Hey Gary, how are you, brother? Happy must be Thursday morning for you over there. It's just Wednesday night here. So glad to have you with us. So I don't think you can start a new habit. What you have to do is create it.
Okay.
You can't stop one. You have to create a new habit to go in its stead.
Right.
You can't really. I don't
sense.
think you can replace it because it's always there. As you talk about muscle memory and things like that.
Right.
I think we can create new habits, routines, things of that nature.
Right.
But I don't think we can start one.
Right.
Because you never, I could start something and it could not become a habit.
Right.
But I could create something, and there's two different words there. Create,
Right.
meaning to make or form, and start meaning go. Right. Beginning. But since we've already had our beginning, I don't think we can start it. I think we can. I mean, we can start a new job. We don't necessarily create a new job.
Right.
But you can create a habit to replace perhaps a bad habit or a good habit or whatever.
That makes sense.
I don't know.
What I found too, and I think a lot of with a lot of things that I've had to try and change or replace stuff with, was that like the more I focused on intentionally trying to stop that bad habit, either the worse it became or that, I mean, or I wouldn't put a dent in it, but doing something, sometimes that was even completely unrelated, that grew, pushed that thing out. You know what I mean? It was like a new habit that got created that pushed the old one out without even like really, directly trying to force that to happen. And that was sometimes, the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, we as humans are selfish and we don't like to give anything up.
True.
Right. So that's why I say don't tell me to stop doing anything. I'll fight against that subconsciously. Like, all right, that then that fight or flight mechanism comes back in.
Right.
So that's why I say I don't think we can stop it. We can create something,
right,
in its stead.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
But then again, a trigger could happen and you'll be right back at that old habit. That's why I don't think you ever can stop it, but you can create a different pattern, if that makes sense.
Yes. It's always re-triggerable.
Right.
Right.
Right. And again, like you said, you don't, all ex-smokers tell me that. I don't know how you do that. How do you just literally, you're smoking a pack a day and then you just quit?
But maybe I'm also scared of it. I mean, because I haven't tried it, and I don't want to.
Yeah,
try it.
I don't.
Where I'm like,
don't come into my world.
Maybe I do what you did. I could smoke for a month, and then I'd be fine, and I never want to do it again. But
don't
the
come
fear
into
of
my
like,
world.
Holy shit, I have to go through that again is so terrifying that I'm like, I wouldn't even want to touch one of them. So I don't know.
Right.
Maybe
so a lot of times, right, and we've all seen this. Hey, you'll see a smoker. What did you do to quit smoking?
Fuck, dude, I had to. you could see how much stress that puts. Just even thinking about it. I had to try so many times, and the last time, honestly, one of the things that worked the most was saying to myself, it was even when I go back to a cigarette, was, man, this doesn't taste very good, and I don't like this. I'm glad I quit smoking, and I didn't feel anything, but eventually it started to. It worked. I can't really explain how it worked, but I told myself, I'm like, I don't like this, but I didn't try to attach any emotion to it. I just did it.
I mean, take a look. There's people who replace smoking with a patch. There's people who try to stop smoking with a lollipop
I had to
or
do that kind of
chewing
stuff
gum.
I had to always have some in my fingers,
right?
Right, chewing on something.
Yeah, and of course, this is a different. That's a different addiction because of the chemicals and things that you have to wean out of your body, right? Coffee is the same way. Let's talk about coffee, right? I mean, I love coffee. I'll have a couple glasses a day.
Sure.
I just had a meeting at 3. They're like, "What would you have?" I'm like, you know what? How about a cup of coffee? They kind of look at me because I was at a bar. Like, well, I'm like, a cup of coffee will be great. I like iced tea, but I wasn't in the mood for iced tea, so I'm like, give me a cup of coffee. Black is fine. So she brings out a cup of coffee. It was good. It's because I like coffee, but stop drinking coffee for 3 days and the headaches you get, you're just like, ugh, right? So there's those habits. I've created a new habit of reading. I mean, I think I've read like 20 books this year, 25 books this year.
It's crazy.
And I've created this new habit so I can learn and change and do some things that I want to do in my life. But I didn't stop doing what I did before. I just created something in its place. So instead of listening to crappy AM radio in the car, now I'm reading a book, or it's an audible book, right? But I'm putting something good in instead of the crap that's out there, right? I do listen on my app, my 216 the Net Android app, my Bluetooth though. I do that, so you can do that. It's a good thing to do as well when you're in the car. Of course, you're listening to 216 the Net. Thanks for getting caught in that. This is Two Bald Guys and Mike, and we're talking about habits today and how they affect us. And not all habits are bad. There are good habits, right? Case in point, tomorrow morning when you are getting dressed, take a look at what foot you put the sock on first, right or left. Take a look at which leg you put in your pants first, right or left. You do this without thinking. What shoe? How do you tie your shoe? Take a look at, what is it? Which way when you are looking in the mirror, I will guarantee you don't just look straight. You go to the mirror and do this. You kind of get a look at either side of your face. Which side of your face do you look at first? Those are habits that we have.
I'm going to be a basket case now the rest of the week trying to figure
out. Right? But they're not all bad, right? These are things we do, right? And thank God we've got the habit of breathing. Thank God we, think about that, right? So there are good habits to have. And again, those habits make us feel good. Here, case in point, you've got a daughter. Listen, you're going through your morning habit, your morning routine. Have one of your kids interrupt that. How's the rest of your day go? Like shit. You get pissed at this kid. You're like, why am I mad at this kid? I shouldn't be. You're yelling, the rest of your day is shit because your habit was broken. Somebody stopped you in the middle, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So crazy.
We don't like our habits broken.
No,
shit.
No. That's why I say I don't think you can ever stop one. I think you can create something to not necessarily replace or put in its space. I don't know,
Right.
but I don't think we can ever stop one because one little trigger and we're right
There
back
it
at
is.
it.
There it is.
There it is.
Yep.
So, do you think we're created with these habits? Do you think it's human?
You mean if it's just kind of like dormant inside of us? And
Yeah,
then
is it
it's
wired
like,
in one of the folds in our brain already, and it's just like this is going to be your habit, you dummy?
I think the argument is that probably some of them are some of the things that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, they are biological or genetic or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, certain things, behavioral stuff. But I mean, a lot of the stuff is just it's learned. It's the way we respond to life.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think I think you're right. There's that. I have a habit now when I come to the studio, say good morning to Glenda. Hey, Glenda, how are you? I talk to the doll because she was possessed at one time. What I don't need to see her is like walk around the corner like Chucky, like hey, you know what I'm talking about, Lisa. Eddie knows Glenda as well. He's all about that too. So they get it. They get what I'm saying. So yeah, we got some Russian bots out there. That's great. Good stuff. So here's what I would suggest. Here's what I would challenge you is for the next week, just kind of take a look at what your habits may be. And then take a look at those habits and say, are you able to, are they good habit? Are they bad habit?
Yeah.
Why do I always do this?
Right.
Kind of be mindful, right? Ask yourself that question, like, so like we talked a little bit about it this morning in the gym. I was like, I don't know why I created this whole big thing and I was ready to drop F-bombs and get HR in here right now. I ain't talking to you. I ain't talking to you. Nothing happened.
Right.
Why do I have the habit of trying to get way out over my skis?
Right. Right.
I don't
know.
I don't know.
I mean, for me, that's been a social anxiety fight I've had for a long time. I would either enter situations like that or I'd leave, like, coming back and thinking all these things that like, holy shit, like I did this and I ruined that. And they're never going to want to talk to me. And it would totally change my interaction, the way I met with them either the next time or going into it. And I've started seeing, holy crap, I'm like, I'm messing up these, these relationships with people because of my preconceived notion of what it's going to be like when I meet with them. I get that.
She's into what, the Enneagram?
The Enneagram.
I don't know what that is.
I'm into it's like a personality test kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm into the Enneagram system lately, and it does look like many of us lean hard that way.
I don't know what the Enneagram is. We'll have to have you on, Shana. I don't know what that is. Leaving the house now. Catch you later. Yeah, enjoy the air show, Gary. The Singapore Air Show is going on right now. He goes and takes great pictures. Follow Bo Play Photos on Facebook out there. Gary does a fantastic job taking photos, and it's a really cool air show over there in Singapore too. So enjoy. Hey, we'll catch you later, Gary. So habits affect us in ways that subconsciously we don't even know, and they're not all bad. And I think you got to learn to either live with the habits that create you. Because again, I think that habit is that blankie. It's that warm hug. It takes your brain out of fight or flight and just says, hey, this is good. This is familiar. This is right. They could be mechanism. I'm sure psychologists will battle me on this all day long. I'm just coming to you from a typical guy's point of view, what I think and what goes through my head.
Right.
But I don't think there's I guess with Lisa, what she says is a bad habit would be one that brings, if I'm a
Right.
cutter or something, right? If I
Right.
got the habit of hurting
Right.
myself.
But then again, I mean, that also means it's not universal, right? Like two people could have the same habit and it might be bad for one person or destructive, but for the other person, it might be good, depending on what you're trying to do or, what
Right.
your goals in life are and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've got the habit of flipping people off or something like that, and they get mad at me. Or I do it because out of anger, and you're
Right.
like, hey, you're number one.
Right.
I don't know.
But if you're Conor McGregor, then you might make $1 million off a fight that
That's
comes out of
right.
it. So you
That's right. That's right. Yeah, there's so much out there that just fascinates me, and if we can be mindful, if we can just take a moment to go, wait, why is this happening? Why am I feeling it? Why did I just do that? Right?
Mm.
Why do you button your shirt up or do you button it down?
Always down.
You go down, you start here and go down.
Yes, it's top down. Because otherwise, if for some reason, if I start at the bottom, it's off. It's like the one button off
All right.
when I get to the top. And then
I'm a
over.
bottom up guy.
Are you? You're bottom up guy. Huh?
I adjust and then I find the bottom one and I go. Doop, 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 doop.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. So very, 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 very interesting. Right. I can tell you that the way that I've got habit, the way that I iron, because I like to iron. It's therapeutic for me. Alice won't iron, so if anything needs to be ironed, I do. I love it. Her grandmother taught me how to iron, so I'll iron a shirt exactly the same way every time. Do the collar, or do the left arm,
Really?
do the right arm. Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's yeah.
All right.
But it's therapeutic for me, right? It's my habit. It's because it's right. And it depends on what kind of shirt or what it's made of. If you use a light starter or medium starch or whatever. But so I've got a habit of doing that. That those are some things that I enjoy, right? There was when I started in radio. I said something all the time that my old partner Ron always says, like, we know. I would say, like, or you see what I'm saying, or something. I would say something like that all the time.
Huh.
And he goes, go back and listen to the show. You say it after every sentence or something like that. And I don't know why I said that all the time. So I had to learn and create something to replace that. And what the creation was just being conscious of it, to say, okay, there it is. Just leave it there.
Wow.
Finish at the period. Don't go,
That's interesting.
You see? Or I forget what it was. What might have been,
Yeah. How long did it take you to get rid of that?
It took me months. It took me months to do that because it would just come out, because what I was doing was I was trying to fish for feedback or keep the conversation going.
Oh, okay.
So I'd say, like, tell me more or whatever. But then it just came out after every sentence almost. And then I was like, what in the world? I do say it all the time. Then I had to pay attention to how I was talking to my kids. I say it all the time. How do I talk to my wife? My gosh, I don't just say it on air. I say it everywhere. Why? I had to learn how to fix that. Right. And it's like the people, you see what I'm saying? I cannot see what you're saying. This is not electric company. I can hear what you're saying. I cannot see what you're saying unless we've got the words underneath. You might be able to see that right there if the captions are on, right? But yeah, so there were things that I had to create something new, and a lot of the creation. And listen to what I'm saying. You don't have to replace it with, like that or anything, or a fart noise or whatever. You can replace it by just being mindful of what you're doing. Why am I doing that right now? Why do I want to drink?
Interesting. Maybe silence is a good habit to create sometimes.
It could be. My dad always said that. You got to learn how to do nothing. Yeah. Now my wife goes, I wish you'd do something. Right? So maybe it was right? But the idea is, I think, don't be afraid of your habits. good or bad.
Mhm.
Understand them.
Right.
Why is it that I do that? Why is it that what's going on right now where what comfort or what is it that's causing me to do this? And if you can figure it out, you can perhaps create something new if it's a poor habit, or you might be able to go, I really enjoy that habit. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Why not?
Yeah. Sure is a
Pete,
lot of good ideas.
you know what, God rest his soul. Um, he would do. He'd always be like, I got zero fucks to give today, and so you just knew. All right, well, we're not going to talk business today then because you're obviously in a bad mood or whatever. His habit was, I got zero fucks today. All right, sounds good, Uncle Pete. We're good. And you just knew. All right, well, enjoy the day. so I think, take a look at this evening as you're watching the Olympics after we're done with the show here in the next minute. But take a look at, what's your habit. I will guarantee you at a certain time you're going to go, it's time to have popcorn or a snack or something,
Mm,
and your clock is already set to because you create a habit.
that makes sense.
I need a ho-ho. What? Right. There's a time in everybody's evening where you do something.
Yes, that's true.
It's crazy.
I'm gonna be under the magnifying glass with my life.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing. That music can only mean one thing. Our time has ended. We can't thank you enough for joining us here today. Remember, come back tomorrow. Bear Facts on Guns at 6 p.m. Friday morning. Are you ready for this? The grounds. What is the American dream? Do your homework, folks. Come back Monday morning or Friday morning at 7:30 for the grounds. What is the American dream? It'll be a great conversation. Rob us here at 216. Today is our day, 216. Thanks for getting caught in the net. This has been Two Bald Guys, and enjoy the evening.